Hi guys, welcome back to my garden. If you are new here, my name is Haley. I have a 30 by 30 garden in west central Minnesota. We are currently, I think, zone 5A, but in the last couple years we've been anywhere from 3B, 4A, 4B to 5A, so I'm kind of riding on the 4A, 4B train as far as what I plant. I strictly plant for the most part, fresh eating. I don't do a whole lot of preserving. Being in Minnesota, it's fairly short season. Usually we have about May, early May, mid-May to mid-September. So it's a fairly short season. Most of the stuff I plant from seed and I sow directly into the ground. I do not start seeds. Some of the things that I have in my garden I do buy as starts from the local nursery, but for the most part it's from seed. So this is my first garden tour of the year. Lots has changed since last year. Some stuff's looking good, some stuff's not looking good per usual. There's been a couple permanent additions from last year. So I want to go around and take you guys through the garden and show you what I've got. I'm trying to do a little bit more of throwing varieties in there as I talk about things. I haven't really paid a whole lot of attention to that in the past, but we're going to try that this year as well. Yeah, let's get started. Outside of the garden, our newest addition, minus the big pile of mulch and dead weeds, I just added to it earlier from weeding the actual garden. Right here you can see we have some raspberry plants. They have about doubled in size since I got them, especially this one. This one's looking phenomenal. I have not weeded out here either, so this is the roughest looking part of the garden, but this, I do not remember what variety this is. This might be I got two of the same variety on the outsides because I have 3 plants here, and then the center one I got a different variety of, and I don't remember which ones are which. I don't think I'm going to get anything from them this year, even though they look fabulous. They look absolutely fabulous. So I think maybe next year they might start producing for us. I did originally have some strawberry plants out here as well, but within a day the rabbits ate them down to nothing. So they are now in the garden, what's left of those, but looking fairly good. Nothing has touched these, and I think it's because they have thorns on them. Even my goats, when they're out and about, don't touch these, so very thankful for that. Let's make our way into the garden, and we'll start over here. Per usual, I have lemon basil in here. This is such a small baby plant. It's not really done much. It's not been very warm, and basil likes it warm. We had a very warm snap early spring. It was in the 80s a lot of the days. But since then it's been some days in the 50s, some days in the low 70s. So it's been a rough go of it for the warm weather things. And then coming over here, I have some patty pan squash that is doing pretty great. Some of it's a little yellowing. I did fertilize already. I didn't amend my beds very well last fall, so I did some of that this early spring, and then I added some fertilizer. This fertilizer is pelleted sheep's wool. My husband got that from an organic farming convention, and he let me use that on my garden. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. And then there's some volunteer dill right here too. More patty pan. This patty pan is looking really great. More patty pan. More patty pan. Now over here we're starting with some cucumbers. I have had to replant these a couple times this year, so they're fairly puny. They were coming up really well, and then we had a night that got about, I'd say 33, 34 degrees, and it just wiped them out. So it also wiped out all my cantaloupe. So I've had to replant these a few different times for the same reason. I think we're in the clear now. We've gotten some 40-some degree nights, but I think the cucumbers can handle that. Some of them aren't doing so good. They're just struggling. I'll thin these out once one shows a little bit more gusto than the other. Finally getting this one to pop through. They weren't coming up after I got them to come up good the first couple times. Last year I was getting about a dozen cucumbers a day, and I'm going to be disappointed if I don't get the same this year. So I really want these guys to do good. We have one more cucumber plant, and these are Marketmore cucumber variety, I think. They're a large cucumber, a slicing cucumber. They do not get bitter, which has been nice. I've picked them at multiple times of day, and we've just really not had an issue with that. So I'm thankful for that. Over here, we have some zinnias. This zinnia came up really weird. Rather than a double leaf on either side, it's been triple all around. Super cool. This is a candy stripe zinnia, I believe. And there's my garden kitty sitting on my other zinnia. Excuse me, Holly. This zinnia is coming up normal. Hey, Holly. Yes, sweet girl. And I've left that dandelion to just go because I love dandelions, and I have to pick the rest of them out of my garden. This is some volunteer milkweed that keeps coming back right here. And I can't stand the thought of ripping milkweed out. So it's gonna just be there. Over here is the start of my straight neck yellow squash. This is my first year planting this, but I love squash, so I wanted to add some variety in the garden with that rather than just have zucchini and patty pan. And then there's a bunch of volunteer dill coming up here as well. A more giant cluster of volunteer dill all the way along the edge here. This is another yellow squash. Hi, Holly. Sweet girl. You always find a way to join me in the garden, don't ya? More yellow squash, looking great. Another one, and more dill. Another one. Now this is zucchini, and this is just a Black Beauty zucchini. I've grown this variety for a couple years now, and they always do really well. Last year I had issues with chipmunks eating down all of my zucchini plants, but this little girl, when she showed up last year from down the road with her kittens, she took out our chipmunk population, so we don't have that issue anymore. So zucchini, you can thank Holly for that. More dill kind of in the walkways and everywhere. Another zucchini, Ollie. And this is a volunteer sunflower. Another volunteer sunflower. More zucchini. More zucchini. This one's a little bit more puny. This is some more zinnias here in the corner. Hopefully those get nice and big and pretty by the end of the year. And I just now planted a bunch of Dutch white clover here in this kind of bare walkway. I have a patch over by the door, and it's great. So I'm hoping the bees like this when it comes up. This is my second or third succession of radishes, I believe. Nobody's really doing anything just yet. I just planted these guys probably not even 2 weeks ago. They're looking fabulous. This was just a flower plant for the pollinators that I got at the garden center. And this pot, 2 years in a row now, has killed my plants after a week or two. So I think I have to empty it out. I think a mouse made a nest in there a couple years ago, and ever since then, nothing does well in there after a while. So I'll have to find a way to take care of that. We have volunteer sunflowers everywhere. Here we have a whole bed of rows of green beans. These are Blue Lake bush beans. I do not succession sow these. Some of the empty spots I did replant, and they're starting to come up. I planted these with all of the other cold weather stuff. So I do not succession sow bush beans because they continually produce for me. They don't put off all at once. They never have for me. They've always put off little by little. So they get me through the whole season, which is nice. And all I grow is bush beans. I don't grow pole beans. Another volunteer milkweed that I can't stomach the thought of ripping out. So I think here I planted about 5 plants per row, and I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 rows. So do the math. I should have plenty of green beans. I did learn that I like these frozen, and they saute well from frozen. I don't blanch them or anything, and it works out really well. So I'm gonna continue doing that and hopefully get enough to freeze for the winter. Over here is my little pot of strawberries. I always put strawberries in these end pots right here, and they do well for me. Now over here, this is one of the new perennial additions, is rhubarb. And that's looking great. I won't harvest from that until next year. And here's Hollycat again, showing you the strawberries that we have in ground over here. So I have some in pots and in ground. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 strawberry plants in ground. Now the reason for the in-ground strawberries, I have tried to overwinter strawberries, I think 2 or 3 years now, and I've failed miserably every time. And I have to buy new plants every year. So this year, I noticed when I came out this spring that I had a couple strawberry runners that poured into the walkway. They were coming up. All of my ones that were in my pots were dead. No matter how I tried to overwinter them, they were dead. They got too cold. But some of the runners that took root in the ground came up. So I'm like, okay, you can't survive in a pot, but you can survive in the ground throughout the winter. So I decided to do, originally I had planted the strawberry plants out with the raspberries, but the rabbits got to them within the first day. So I moved the roots of those strawberries out here, and one of them took off really well, but the other 2 died. So I ended up taking 2 of the runner plants from the walkway that kept coming back up after I weed whip them down, and I replanted them there. So now I have 6 healthy plants. They're small. They're not going to give me anything this year. But the cat is so cute. I have 6 healthy strawberry plants in the ground that I'm hoping will come back year after year from here on out. So, and that's the rest of this edge, and we'll go back to my my pots and the other 2 middle beds. My green stalk is looking fabulous this year. Last year it was puny and did not do well for me. This year I decided to just plant all lettuce out here, and it is looking fabulous. I am very, very happy with it. We have multiple different types of lettuces in here. I believe this is Little Gem head lettuce, but I always harvest it as leaf lettuce. It just gets too warm here throughout the summer to get a head without it bolting. So, but they're all very good varieties that I've enjoyed over the years. So I'm very happy with how this turned out this year. Now over here is my pepper and onion bed, and it's looking pathetic. I had been putting off getting pepper plants as long as I could because I like to have no nights that hit 50 degrees for these peppers, but we weren't going to see that for a while. So I ended up getting them last weekend, planting them out. They've not grown any, and we've had a couple chilly nights that have just taken out. Holly, you can't be in here, girl. That have just taken out the leaves. I just pinched off all the leaves that were like dead and crispy. So I'm hoping they come back well. And I also have green onions planted in here, which last year I had poor luck with. I've only had good luck with green onions my first year. I have a couple tiny baby ones that are coming up, and I have already had to replant. So I'm not sure. I think I'm going to just give up on those after this year and maybe just do some onion sets and let them just stay small. I do not cook with onions very much, actually. I cook with some onion powder, but for the most part, I enjoy using the green onions for fresh cooking. And even some, I'll freeze some and put them in like egg bakes and stuff, but I just won't have a whole lot of use for actual onions, but I might just have to do that rather than green onions. Not sure why I had such good luck with them the first year and have struggled so much this year and the last. So, and I've done them in multiple beds now, so I'm not sure what the green onion issue is. Over here we have my daughter's little garden bed. She wanted to have her own little space this year. So we got her some flowers. We planted a sunflower over here. It's not come up, so we'll probably have to take one of the volunteers from the walkway and throw it in there for her. This little zinnia is so small, but she grew that from seed in the house for the better part of the late spring. So she was excited to transplant that, and it's looking much better now that it's outside, so I'm sure it'll do great. And that is a fresh zinnia we planted from seed. And those are some muncher cucumbers, so pickling cucumbers that she can enjoy. Over here we have some lovely volunteer sunflowers. They're the biggest ones in my garden, and they had to pot themselves in this pot with some strawberries. And I think these strawberries enjoy it because these two strawberry plants are putting on some baby fruits for us. I've been picking them off, but I finally let them go. The plants looked pretty healthy, so hopefully we'll have some strawberries here soon. And over here we have some more lemon basil. These are doing the best out of everybody, but still they would prefer it if it was a little warmer. So hopefully we get something from that. This is my lovely patch of clover that the bees absolutely love. So I'm hoping the other clover that I've planted they can enjoy as well. It's just buzzing. I love it. I love to see it. And this is my final strawberry bed. We got little flowers starting there. Now over here we have the cantaloupe bed with some volunteer dill, of course. Volunteer dills everywhere. Cantaloupes I've had to replant several times, like I said. These are Sierra Gold or Heart of Gold. It might be Heart of Gold variety. And we're finally doing something over here. We have a third plant here that came up, but I think got frozen down a little bit. These cantaloupes, man, I've never had great luck with cantaloupes. Usually I get them to the end of the season when they're finally starting to give me some fruit, and then it freezes. So I'm hoping, I planted a whole dang bed of them in hopes that I would have some, and this middle hill is doing the best. But it was doing really great before the last cold snap, and then I again had to replant. So got a little discouraged there, but it happens. You plant early and you kind of, risk it, but it was worth a shot. These are looking healthy though. I'll thin those out soon. Another volunteer sunflower. And this hill over here has a couple healthy looking plants. I would like to see more plants over in these end hills, but we'll just have to be happy with what we got. These radishes I planted about the same time that I planted that pot over there, which is almost completely harvested. These have been in here for quite a while now, and while some of them are producing decent little bulbs, this whole bed is just poor, just very poorly. They should have come and gone by now. I think I'm gonna have to revamp this one pretty heavily in this next year. You have all these little succulent type growths coming up, and I think it's just got some nutrient deficiency to the point where the soil is not being able to retain the moisture it needs to. And this bed is also full of ants, so that might be some of it too. But we'll figure this pot out next year. Now this bed I planted the same time, like I said, the other bed, and these are the only radishes that I have left to harvest. I have harvested the rest of them already. And then this is a good healthy dill plant coming up here too. So I'm going to replant this bed of radishes throughout the summer. Another beautiful volunteer sunflower. More volunteer dill. All right, here I just planted some pumpkins, and I'm trying to remember the variety. Sweet sugar or sugar sweet pumpkin variety. I'm not exactly sure. It's a small little personal pumpkin. I found that they have a better chance of finishing the actual fruit and drying off if I do a smaller variety. There's another hill and another volunteer sunflower and another hill. Now this bed has in the past always been flowers because the first year I built the garden, I had a wheelbarrow up there, or I think it was actually a bucket or a can of something, and I poured it out thinking it was water, and it was straight oil all the way down this middle bed that I had just established. So this will be my first year growing food in it. However, I don't feed the pumpkins to my family. I feed the pumpkins to my livestock for deworming effects. So I don't feel, it's been several years now, and I'm sure it would be perfectly well. The soil is very happy and healthy. And I've planted enough sunflowers and stuff in here to kind of process the soil. But I still feel a little bit more comfortable feeding my animals the result of this bed rather than my family just yet. And I would grow pumpkins for my animals anyway, so I might as well use the bed that I'm least comfortable using for food for my family to consume. What do you think, Holly? Wrap it up? All right, guys, that's all I got for my garden today. I'm congested, so I'm sorry I had to listen to that the whole time. I hope you enjoyed it. If this is not your first time checking out my garden, I hope you like the changes, the additions. If you've noticed, I've added a little bit more bordering to some of my beds. We found a bunch of rocks in the fields, me and the kids, and we've also found some old brick laying around that I was able to finish off some of the beds. So that's nice to have that fresh and established. Put a lot of work into this garden this year so far. Proud of myself for not getting burnt out on it. It's been hard to keep up with planting and having 2 small children, and all the things that come with springtime. It's sometimes can be difficult to get in the garden and stay motivated, but it definitely is my little safe haven, and I get excited seeing the stuff close to fruition so we can start eating fresh from the garden and I can start feeding my family well. And I'm just really excited for this garden season. There's so many new things, and I'm just happy you're here to join me. So thank you guys for hanging out with me today. Check back in a few weeks to a month, and I hope we can see the growth in the garden a little bit more, and hopefully there's a little less disappointments. But it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. They're learning curves, right? Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me today. We'll see you next time.